If you are still building funnels in 2025, you are losing, not slowly, not eventually, but right now. Because what used to work, direct response ads, VSL, sales call, doesn't anymore. And no one's talking about why. In this video, I'm going to show you what has replaced the traditional sales funnel in 2025, the exact system that took me from cold DMs and $0 in ad spend to building 4 different businesses to a 7-figure run rate, each within 3 months, without a single funnel and without hard selling on a single sales call. You're about to learn the same strategy, taking power away from the marketers with 100K per month ad budgets and giving it back to entrepreneurs like you, who are actually good at what they do but are stuck using the same tactics from 2016. Funnels are linear, the modern buyer isn't. They research, they watch, they loop. And unless your content is built to shift beliefs and build obsession, you will keep leaking money, leaking attention, and losing to people with half of your talent and none of your ethic. This is not a tweak, it's a funeral. And by the end of this video, you will either be building the new system that works or clinging to the one that died. Let's go. Dearly beloved, thank you for gathering here today for the funeral of Mr. S Funnel 1898 to 2024. As we have discussed in 2025, without a doubt, we have officially reached the death of the sales funnel. Now, don't get me wrong, we had a great run. If you guys know me, you know that I used very simple funnels to scale multiple offers to a 7-figure run rate within as little as 91 days. And I loved simple funnels more than the next guy. But the reality is, this kind of funnel, the standard sales funnel of having a generic $100 million offer that you drive attention to through organic or a paid lead form or DM ad or cold outreach to a landing page in order to make a sale, right? Maybe you have a VSL on that landing page. Maybe you go straight to a sales call. But this direct method of selling, just going cold direct response marketing to a sales page to try to book a sales call or make a sale, this doesn't work anymore, right? That's the bad news. It simply does not work anymore in the current context of today's market. Now, the good news, what works now works even better, significantly better. In fact, it's been allowing us to scale clients faster than anything we've seen before. And the best part is it requires little to no ad spend whatsoever, right? Here we have a couple of clients. We have Luke here who scaled to 7 figures in under 3 months, faster than I did with my offers even. So 87K per month right there, as you can see. More than doubled his revenue in just a couple of months. We have Jabron here, who within his first week of using this method managed to collect 20K. I believe it's within the first 5 days that he hit this first 20K. And we have Austin here that within the first 24 hours, collected $12,000 cash, 2 closes off $83 in ad spend, right? So as I said, some clients like Jabron, no ad spend whatsoever, others very close to zero, right? So this method is absolutely incredible if you know how to use it properly, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it is, what this new zero cost or near zero cost method of client acquisition is, 2, how to use it to generate sales calls for free or close to it, and 3, how to never have to sell on a sales call again, how to never have to pitch and hard sell to a prospect, how to have them come already money in hand, willing to just check out. So it becomes a billing call, not a sales call, right? Now, in order for us to understand why this new mechanism works so well, we first have to understand why the traditional sales funnel isn't working anymore and why this is actually a good thing if you know how to implement this new mechanism, right? So the death of the funnel is what I call the great equalizer event. I think this is the best thing to ever happen to online business, right? Because it has taken power away from those with heaps of money to spend on ads and given it to those with the best insights and the most goodwill to share with the market, right? So in the same way TikTok's algorithm took power away from the influencers and gave it to the common creator, right? It realized that there was a problem with social media and content was being primarily shared to followers. So follower count was the main metric for success. Influencers held all the power. But TikTok created a new kind of algorithm that was based on creative merit, how good the content is. right? By focusing on non-followers instead. And this is what we call a meritocratic algorithm, an algorithm focused on merits, not on followers, not on owned resources, but where every single creator had an equal opportunity to get reach. And we have the same thing happening right now with the depth of the funnel, where growth opportunities are now equally being given to influencers who have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on ads a month, and the early entrepreneur who has little to nothing to spend on ads every month, right? Now, the thing we have to understand about funnels is they're linear, right? They're linear selling mechanisms which work with the customer journey that used to be linear, right? When customers had a linear journey up until now, funnels were fantastic. The thing is, we no longer have this kind of flow anymore. A flow where the way to get clients is just run direct response ads, get people directly onto a landing page where they book a sales call and they purchase, right? So the more money you put in, the more money you get out, meaning those with the most ad spend made the most money, right? It's not linear anymore. It is not like this anymore. The game has changed, right? Instead, the customer journey looks something more like this. It's an eyesore to look at, but rather, you can have traffic coming, from cold DMs or reel an ad, doesn't matter where it comes from, but you drive someone to, let's say, your Instagram. What happens then? This is what the customer journey looks like now. The prospect will end up somewhere like your Instagram. Then they'll go to maybe your YouTube. Then they'll maybe watch another YouTube video. Then maybe they get a free asset from the description and they put in their email. So you end up sending them an email with another YouTube video. Maybe after that, they end up seeing you on Instagram a week later. Maybe at that point, they decide to book a sales call. Maybe they don't buy and they end up seeing you on Instagram a week after that or a day after that. Maybe you reactivate them with an SMS campaign that you got when you got their email from the YouTube video, and now that sends them to another YouTube video. Maybe at this point, they decide to buy a sales call or go on a sales call, and then they eventually buy, right? The process has completely changed. Customers are going around, taking their time, going to different touch points, different contexts, and eventually deciding to buy from who knows where. And the thing is, it's different for every single prospect, right? Every single prospect. And that's why we need a new kind of mechanism, something that suits this new customer journey. And as I said, I'm going to show you guys exactly what this new mechanism is that's allowing us to meet customers where they currently are in 2025. But just before I reveal this to you, reveal to you the exact kind of system that we're using to scale brands and creators and entrepreneurs online, coaches, consultants, agency owners, online service providers, to 7 figures within a number of months, I first need to show you why it works, right? So let me explain this. And I understand you may or may not have the attention span of a goldfish watching this video right now. But if you do, I urge you to challenge yourself to try as hard as you can to just stick with me through these next 3 to 5 minutes and allow me to get through this explanation so you can gain the insight and clarity onto how to implement this, completely transform your business, right? So this is you. This is you in the current market. And you decide, I want to make some money. So you come up with an offer, right? You create a product. And let's say for the simple math of this video, the product costs $10. So you create this product, right? Let's say it's a box of cereal and 1,000 people in the market want cereal. Let's say you have the only product available in the market. And so naturally you end up with 1,000 sales, right? It's a very simple process. It's linear. The customer has the need. You offer the solution. It's a 2-minute process. They have no other decision to make, right? And so you make $10,000. $10 product, 1,000 sales, $10,000, right? Great. Now let's say that things have changed a little bit. What happens when other people start having the same idea? Other people say, oh, Tony's making some money selling his cereal boxes. I want to make some money. Maybe I'll try to sell cereal boxes. What happens when you have new entrants come into the market now? Well, this increases market saturation, right? Or competition. And so what happens then is the customer now, you have 1,000 market participants, but now you have 25 products because other people are seeing the success as well. And this happens in every single market whenever there is a successful opportunity. Everyone wants to try to capitalize on this vehicle, right? And so now there's a new step added. The customer needs to do product research. They need to spend the time figuring out which one of these products that they can select from are the best from them. And this increases the length of the buying process. Right now it's 20 minutes instead of 2 minutes. They have to look at the back of each cereal box, figure out which one is best for them. And out of these 1,000 market participants, let's do simple math, 25 products, let's say they're all created equal. Now you only end up with 40 sales. right? 1,000 divided by 25, 40, which means you only made $400. So your revenue drops from 10K to 400 just because a few new market entrants get into the market, right? Now, what happens when everyone wants to join, but there's no space left? The entire market is seeing people making money left and right, selling cereal boxes, and everyone wants a piece of this. Are people just going to say, well, there's too many people, we're not going to try to make money for ourselves too now? Of course not. What happens now when there's no space left on the shelf? When a market's becoming too saturated, people make the problem even worse by trying to create subcategories of the product to try to differentiate themselves, right? So now people might start saying, well, hey, a lot of people are buying cereal. There's a lot of people selling the same kind of cereal. What if I make a different kind of cereal? What if I make organic cereal, for example, or specialty cereal? And now what happens is not only do you have product research, but the customer now has to do category research and figure out which subtype of cereal is the best kind of cereal for me, right? And so now they're doing category research. And out of these 1,000 prospects, 1,000 market participants, let's say there's 4 subcategories again. Let's pretend they're all created equal. You end up now with 250 prospects in each category. 250 people decide to go to each one of these stores. And now they have to decide between 25 products. So now again, you're dividing 250 by 25, and now you only end up with 10 sales. Not only that, but this product process is so much longer now because the category research has been added to the product research. And now it's going to take someone 2 hours to decide what kind of cereal do I want and what brand of cereal do I want, right? And so now it takes longer for every cereal company to get their money, and they also get less sales. And now you're left with just 10 sales of a $10 product to make $100, right? And you would think it can't get any worse. It can. Because what happens when you start having so many people get into a market and creating all of these new kind of offers when they really have no experience, right? Because what happens when you attract so many people into an opportunity, you end up with more people who are bad apples as well, right? People who just want money, people who have no real skills, people who are frauds. And so a lot of people end up trying these terrible cereals and saying, wow, these sucked. Cereal companies suck. Low key, I can't trust them. How can I trust another cereal brand to deliver, right? And what happens? Well, they decide, maybe I don't want cereal anymore. Maybe I want pancakes, right? I want to try something else. Market trust decreases in that opportunity. And so now you end up with even another deferred kind of situation for you where not only do you have to compete with the subcategories of cereal and all the products in those subcategories, now half of the market's going to go to another opportunity too. Maybe they're going to look at pancakes. As you can see here, ChatGPT had some trouble rendering the rest of my image here. But you have half the customers not going to pancakes, half going to cereal, and now your prospects get cut in half again. Now you get only 500 market participants going into 4 subcategories, 125 prospects each, 25 products in each, and you end up with 5 sales at $10 to make $50, right? And this, unfortunately, is the current state of the coaching, consulting, and agency industry. This is the growth curve for our space. It has nearly 5x'd in the last 14 years, from 200,000 to nearly 1 million consultants, coaches, and agencies all trying to get a piece of the pie online. And with that growth curve, more entrants coming in, there's more bad apples coming in, which results in more people being burned, which results in lower trust, right? And the combination of these two factors together, more market saturation and competition, lower trust, results in something we call market sophistication, right? The market is getting smarter. They're realizing there's a lot of options and a lot of them actually suck. I need to be very careful who I trust and give my money to, right? And this is exactly what's happening in our space. You have your customer thinking everyone is full of shit. Everyone is capping. So you get 100 market participants come in, and you have 4 different subcategories. Let's say SMMA, dropshipping, Amazon FBA, and AI agents. Now they have all these different options of how they can make money online. And now they have to do category research to figure out which one of these opportunities they need to take advantage of. And then when they decide on it, they decide, let's say I want to go into SMMA. Now there's 25 different SMMA products. Should I start a content agency, an ad agency, an SEO agency, a web design agency, an e-com agency, a UGC agency, a clipping agency? What kind of SMMA should I start? Right? And now they have to do product research. And then they finally decide on that ad agency model. And if you manage to convince them that your agency is the best, or your coaching program for agencies is the best, you end up with 1 sale. 1 measly sale. And this is the reason why 88% of coaches, consultants, and agency owners in today's market return to a 9-to-5 within 5 years, because of the level of market sophistication we're currently dealing with. So how in the world are you supposed to make a sale in today's market? How? Well, the problem is most people are trying to sell here, right, at the point of customer interaction, the POCI, or here at the purchase decision, right? They are trying to sell at the selling point. Here's the problem with this. People make their decision before they get to the selling point. You need to sell to people while they're doing their research, their category research and their product research. By the time they've gotten to the store in today's day and age, people already know what they want to buy. They've done their research beforehand. They've had their belief shifted beforehand. They've had all of the marketing done to them beforehand. And so you need to sell to people in the research phase so that when they get to the store, when they get to the plaza, they already know what kind of store they want to go to. And when they get into the store, they already know what kind of product they want. And when they get to that product shelf, they know which one they want. Right? You need to convince your prospect your subcategory is the only viable solution for them before the sales decision, and to convince them that your product is the only viable option in that subcategory before the sales decision. Now, convincing the prospect that your subcategory is the only viable solution actually has two parts to it. You first need to convince them that other categories are wrong, right? You got to convince them that Amazon FBA is not for them, that drop shipping is not for them. And then once you've convinced them that what they're currently using or considering is not an option, then it becomes possible to convince them that your category, your opportunity is the right one. And once you've convinced them that, for example, ads are not the right opportunity, content is the right opportunity, now you have to convince them your way of doing content is the superior way of doing content. So again, 3 steps here. Convince them their current category is not viable. Convince them that your category is viable. Convince them you are the category king in your category. You must do all 3 of these things to make a sale, right? So this needs to be done before they make the purchasing decision, before they've come to the store, meaning before the sales call. You need to do your selling during the marketing. If you are waiting until the sales call to sell the prospect, you are going to lose. 9 times out of 10, you are going to lose. You are cooked if you wait until the sales call to sell. There are way too many variables, way too many competitors, way too much research being done before the sales call for you to rely on your sales call to sell, right? And this is the problem with direct response call booking funnels. With trying to skip step 1 and go straight to the sale through an ad, through an outreach, through a video selling your product, it doesn't work in today's market. They need to be pre-sold before they get to the call. That's the only way you can scale in today's market. And so this is the equivalent of what the current entrepreneur is doing. They're coming up with their generic $100 million offer, this box of cereal, a commodity, and they are trying to sell it right away out the gate through either organic, paid ads, or outreach, which is the equivalent of you standing in Meta's parking lot in front of all of these stores before even convincing someone that your store or your category or your product is the right thing for them. You're just yelling in the middle of this parking lot, come buy this cereal box, right? And then when you get someone on a VSL, before you've convinced them again that your category is the right thing for them or your kind of way of doing that product is the right thing for them, you're just screaming again, buy this cereal box, buy my product. My product is so great. And then you get them on the sales call and you still have not convinced them about your category, about their category being wrong, about your category being right, and about you being the best in the category. You're still just here mindlessly yelling about how great your product is in a vacuum by itself, right? And then you wonder why people go and buy Trix cereal instead of Frosted Flakes, right? This is the unfortunate state of the market. You are not working with the customer journey. When you use a funnel in 2025, you are working against it. You are creating the path of most friction and you are killing your momentum. We have to keep in mind, this is the customer journey now. This is what it looks like. But what we have to keep in mind too, if we're wondering how can you market to something that's complicated, well, this middle jumble here, all this is, we have to understand it is a cycle of research and consideration. That's all it is. It's a cycle of research and consideration. Going from Instagram to YouTube to YouTube to email to YouTube to Instagram to a sales call to Instagram to SMS, they're just doing as much research, gaining as much insights, and trying to consider what is the best option for them. And so what this actually looks like in the modern model is using a flywheel, a cycle, instead of a line, right? So what we do instead is we start with the pain trigger, not a $100 million offer. We actually recognize that everyone in the market is stuck using these direct response funnels. They're stuck in their old ways and they're just yelling about, look at my awesome product, come see my VSL, come jump on a sales call. We're gonna call that out with our organic short form, our paid lead form or DM ads, or our cold outreach, however you're getting clients. What's important is you're not trying to sell. You're not trying to sell yet. You're just trying to get them into your ecosystem by saying, I understand what you have to deal with. I understand the suspicious state of the market and all the pain that you're experiencing with all of these options, most of which suck. I want to give you an opportunity to facilitate your research and consideration process. So you're just giving them a pain trigger to bring them into your ecosystem. An ecosystem is the only place you can have a flywheel. You need somewhere where you can hold people's attention for a long period of time. How can you get people to subscribe to you, to follow you? Well, you need a social media platform. IG, Instagram personal brand, generally being the best ecosystem or vacuum, because you can do shorter form, longer form, push to other platforms, DM conversations, just everything you can do right there. And it's currently considered the business card for social media entrepreneurs, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to use this pain trigger through whatever model you have, whether you're sending cold outreach messages, running ads, or doing organic content. You want your top of funnel to be going into your Instagram just to get the followers, just to get people stuck in here, in this vacuum, so you can start your flywheel process. Now in the flywheel process, what you're gonna do is this. Short form content is used for awareness and habit formation. You want to always be showing up in people's minds, not to sell them, just for awareness and habit formation. You want them to see you every single day, every single night, when they wake up, when they go to sleep, when they're in the bathroom, when they're on their bike, when they're taking the bus to work. You want to be the only thing in front of their nose. You never want this person to go a minute without being able to see you. And this is just going to remind them that you are on the shelf. That is all this does. You are on the shelf. Now we're going to use CTV story sequences, call to value story sequences, not call to actions. We're not trying to get someone to buy yet either. We're just raising our hand and saying, hey, if you want to learn about why our product is the only viable solution for you, or our category is the only viable solution for you, we want to give you this free asset to help you facilitate your research and consideration process that you are set on doing, right? So short form content reminds them we're there. Story sequences occasionally is just us raising our hands and saying, hey, do you need help with your research and consideration? And to everyone who says yes, and when they're constantly seeing you and building that trust initially through short form, they will start to trickle in to raising their hand in the story sequence. And they will start to say, yes, I want help. Show me this insight that you're teasing. What we do here is we then send them a long form nurturing asset. Whatever insight we've shared in that story sequence, for example, hey, here's how we're sending unlimited cold DMs without having to use my own human labor. If you want to learn about this, if you want to research it so you can consider it, send me a DM me the word cold, and I'll send you a free research asset, right? Now you send them long form assets, and this starts to nurture them. This starts to build the education and help them with the consideration process to understand that you actually might be a viable category and a viable solution. And now at this stage, once we have nurtured people, we've started to nurture them with that long form asset. All of those long form assets, they push to the same place. We want to push all of those finally to the call to action, to a sales asset. And that sales asset is our final attempt to now essentially shift someone's beliefs on those three key points. Your current category is wrong, or the other categories you're considering are wrong. Only this category is right. And we are the best solution in this category, right? This is your opportunity to now take them through that three-step process. And what you do with this flywheel is you're constantly posting short form, reminding people you're there, occasionally constantly raising your hand and giving them the opportunity to get nurtured, constantly providing those value assets for nurturing. And whoever gets to the belief shifting sales stage and they don't take the action to book a sales call, it's fine. They go right back into the flywheel. They keep watching your short form, keep seeing the hands, the offer to help, and keep having the opportunity to take the long form content and keep getting nurtured until they're ready to potentially consider you again. And eventually go into the sales call process and become a client, right? And this allows you to meet customers where they are, right? You are now able to take someone into your ecosystem, get their attention and retain them. Don't just lose them because they didn't resonate with your ad. Retain them, bring them into here, have them get the awareness and habit formation of your brand with short form. Give them the opportunity to get research help and value with the story sequences. Continue to give them the opportunity to get nurtured with long form, and continue to give them the opportunity to get new sales assets sent to them. And if they don't want it, they go back into this flywheel over and over and over again until they've been nurtured enough to drop into the sales call and turn into a client. And this way, you end up having people start to trickle in day by day, by day, by day, by week, by week, by month, by month, by month at their own pace, right? Now, how long does this take? Before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys, this is the exact same process that we're using to effortlessly, without friction, scale offers to 7 figures within 3 months. And the reason this works so well is because, again, you are now working with the market. You are understanding where they're coming from. They have this longer need now due to market sophistication to go through this research and consideration process. And you are giving them a flywheel, a mechanism to do that and facilitate that. You're helping them move through the flywheel quicker. So by the time they get through that process, they're ready to buy. And the only person they're going to consider is you because they spent 7 hours with you and 0 time with anyone else. Now, how long does this process generally take? I just mentioned it. On average, this takes 7 hours, right? Now, I'm sure you've seen every entrepreneur and their mom and their dog right now saying it takes 7 hours of cumulative interaction time across 11 touch points in 4 different contexts to build enough trust with the lead in order for them to want to buy. This is a VSL I made years ago on this topic. I have been screaming this from the hills for years. 4 years before anyone was talking about this on social media, right? Because back in 2015, Daniel Priestley talked about this and everyone was ignoring it at the time before it became a hot hook and a trend. But the key thing that most people don't talk about is that it's actually not 100% accurate. 7 hours is the average it takes someone. But this number is contingent on the quality of the insights. The average person's insight quality takes 7 hours to resonate with the client and help move them through that research and consideration phase. We're able to do this on our side within 70 minutes. Some people spend 70 hours or 7 weeks and still don't succeed to get clients because their insights are just that bad. So if you can improve the quality of your insights, you actually don't need 7 hours. You can do this in an hour. You can do this in half an hour, right? The second thing I want to tell you is, well, what happens if you don't want to do this? You don't want to build 7 hours of cumulative interaction time. What if you just want to try to go direct selling, direct marketing, direct response, run ads to a landing page, get sales calls, get a purchase? I'm sure you've seen a lot of people just doing this, right? You've seen a lot of people doing this and still succeeding. Here's the problem with this. Here's why it's not sustainable and you will go broke doing this. Because only 3% of a market ever consists of active buyers. The other 97% are not looking to buy right now. They're still in that research and consideration process, right? Here's a more accurate version of this pyramid, breaking it down in even more detail. And so when you do direct response selling, you only speak to the 3% who want to buy now, and the other 97% who's still in the research consideration process, you lose them and you end up broke because you burn through your available market, 3% of the market, very quickly, right? Now, what you need to understand is, again, this process is nothing new. The process of understanding that you have to give someone a method to not only attract their attention, but retain it long enough to build trust, to work with them, and to convince them these 3 things. The other categories are wrong. Your category is the only right category. Your product is the only category in that category that's going to help them. It's the only viable solution. It is superior in every way. This is not a new concept. But now that Iman has been talking about for the last 2 months, that funnels are dead, you guys are starting to listen. Everyone is starting to listen. I have, again, been screaming about this from the hilltops for too long. Here's another one of our VSLs that we did a long time ago that talked about it's not the funnel. Funnels will never help you scale to 7 figures without friction, right? It is about the belief shifting process. It is how do you get someone into this flywheel and gradually shift their beliefs to their category is wrong, your category is right, your product is the only one in the category. This process, it's not as simple as just posting short form, posting stories, posting long form, and posting a sales asset. You need to have a framework to predictably, consistently, and effectively do these 3 things, shift these beliefs. We call these neuro-emotional messaging sequences, right? And you need to build an infrastructure. We call it the 7-figure personal brand infrastructure. In our program, you need to build this infrastructure, an automated way to do this so that you don't need to spend 7 hours with every single one of these prospects face-to-face, talking one-to-one in order to be able to achieve this goal of shifting beliefs and building trust and taking them through this flywheel. You need to automate this process so that it can become effortless, so that you can make content assets once, which generate leads and format attention forever, a million times over. So that's something that infrastructure that you build now, a month from now, a week from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, will continue to run this process for you and generate you clients passively, right? Now, if you want to learn how to build a 7-figure personal brand infrastructure, right? An infrastructure which not only captures attention, but effortlessly on its own goes through the process of shifting beliefs, building trust, framing you as an authority, and getting people to raise their own hands, empty themselves into your sales funnel without you needing to cry and beg so that they show up to the sales call pre-sold, pre-educated, and ready to buy. Again, if you can't sell someone before they get in the sales call, you're cooked. This is the only way to succeed in 2025. With the current level of market sophistication and saturation. So if you want to learn exactly how to shift beliefs effortlessly, I'm going to put a training in the description of this video, a free training that you can watch showing exactly how to build belief shifting assets, which will take people through this flywheel on its own. Now, if you want to learn how to not only build belief shifting assets, belief shifting sales letters, but also how to create the content necessary, the short form content, the story content, and the long form content in little time, in very, very little time so that you don't burn out, because this is the most annoying part of this process, that you have to film content. We have created a process that has allowed us to film 240 pieces of short form content in 24 hours, right? You can see that in some of our other YouTube videos where we break that down. If you want to learn how to be able to create this belief shifting and nurturing content, 240 pieces in 24 hours, and automate this funnel process with AI to take your customers through that nurturing process and shift their beliefs so they show up to your sales call pre-sold, pre-educated, and ready to buy. There's also going to be a link to book a call and speak to our team if you'd like to get help with that. If you wouldn't, no problem at all. Follow the YouTube, follow me on Instagram at Mirogacic, Mirogacic. It's going to be at Mirogacic, so that you can continue to get these insights and the systems that we're using in order to facilitate this process and show in real time the clients we're scaling to 7 figures within 90 days and exactly how we're doing it. As always, Carpe Omnia, seize it all, seize everything this life has to offer. You are not in business to work hard, to work long, to overwork yourself. The market rewards those who learn how to provide value as quickly and efficiently as possible. This is why leverage systems like this are the key to scaling not only your business, but your life. So implement what you've seen here. Reach out to our team if you'd like help building this for you, and we'll see you on the next video.